For months, pensioners and benefit recipients across the UK have been bracing for sweeping cuts, fearing the worst as government discussions pointed toward tightening eligibility and reducing payments. But in a surprising move, ministers have now reversed course, sending shockwaves through the political and financial landscape. What led to this sudden U-turn? And more importantly, what does it mean for your pension, disability benefits, and other entitlements? The original proposal aimed to curb government spending by reassessing support schemes, sparking widespread backlash from senior citizens, advocacy groups, and even some members of parliament. With the cost of living crisis still squeezing household budgets, the prospect of reduced financial assistance had many worried about how they would afford essentials like heating, food, and medical care. Public pressure mounted, petitions gathered thousands of signatures, and expert analysis warned of severe consequences for the most vulnerable. Now, just when it seemed inevitable, the government has backed down. The decision to reverse the planned cuts means that key benefits, including pension credit, attendance allowance, and universal credit for older claimants, will remain intact for now. But is this a true victory, or just a temporary delay before further adjustments are made? Could new eligibility rules or hidden restrictions still impact your payments in the coming months? In this video, we'll break down the details of this major policy shift, explain why the government changed its stance, and reveal what financial experts are saying about future changes. If you rely on these benefits, staying informed is more crucial than ever. Don't miss a single detail. Watch until the end to ensure you understand what's next and how to protect your entitlements. And if you find this information helpful, consider sharing it so others in the same situation can stay updated too. Now that the government has reversed its stance on the proposed benefit cuts, the biggest question remains, why? And perhaps more importantly, what happens next? If you've been following the news, you know that just a few weeks ago, discussions within the government pointed to major reductions in financial aid programs, causing widespread panic among pensioners, disabled individuals, and those who rely on state support. The reasoning behind these proposed cuts was simple: budget concerns. Ministers argued that economic pressures, rising inflation, and increased public spending made it necessary to re-evaluate welfare programs. However, what they didn't anticipate was the public outcry that followed. Pensioners groups, charities, and advocacy organizations immediately raised concerns, pointing out the severe impact these cuts would have on the most vulnerable. Many people in the UK, particularly seniors living on fixed incomes, are already struggling to make ends meet. Energy bills have soared, grocery prices are higher than ever, and essential services have become increasingly unaffordable. For those who rely on state support, even a small reduction in benefits could mean the difference between heating their homes and going cold or affording necessary medications versus skipping doses to stretch their prescriptions. As pressure mounted, the government faced backlash not just from the public but also from members within its own party. MPs from across the political spectrum spoke out against the cuts, warning that reducing benefits during a cost of living crisis would only deepen financial hardship for millions. The opposition seized the opportunity to criticize the government's approach, calling it reckless and short-sighted. At the same time, financial experts warned that cutting benefits could have long-term consequences, potentially increasing homelessness, food insecurity, and healthcare costs as more people struggled to survive. But what really forced the government's hand was the sheer volume of public response. Petitions demanding a reversal of the cuts gathered hundreds of thousands of signatures in record time. Protests erupted in major cities, with pensioners, disabled individuals, and working-class families taking to the streets to make their voices heard. News outlets covered heartbreaking stories of seniors struggling to pay their bills, of disabled individuals who feared losing essential support, and of families who had no idea how they would cope if their benefits were slashed. All of this led to a turning point. The government had to make a decision: push forward with deeply unpopular cuts and risk losing public trust, or find an alternative solution. The result? A complete U-turn. Ministers quickly announced that they would no longer be proceeding with the planned benefit reductions, stating that they had listened to the concerns of the British public and recognised the importance of protecting vulnerable individuals. For many, this news came as a massive relief. It meant that vital payments such as pension credit, attendance allowance, and disability living allowance would remain untouched for now. It also signaled that, at least in the short term, pensioners and low-income households could continue to rely on these crucial sources of financial support. However, while the government's reversal is a victory for those who fought against the cuts, the situation remains far from settled. One of the biggest concerns now is whether this U-turn is truly permanent or if further adjustments are coming under a different name. It wouldn't be the first time a policy reversal simply meant a delay before new restrictions were introduced. Some experts believe that while outright benefit cuts have been abandoned, the government may still introduce changes in more subtle ways, through stricter eligibility requirements, reduced inflation-linked increases, or even new taxation policies that effectively reduce the overall value of benefits. Another critical aspect to consider is the financial sustainability of these programs. If the government originally planned to cut benefits due to budget constraints, what will they do now to balance the books? Some analysts predict that future welfare spending may be reassessed in a different way, possibly through targeted reductions rather than broad cuts. Others suggest that the government might look elsewhere for savings, potentially cutting funding from other public services or increasing taxes on wealthier individuals to cover social support costs. For pensioners, the main question is whether their payments will continue to rise in line with inflation. The triple lock policy, which ensures that the state pension increases each year by the highest of inflation, average earnings growth, or 2.5%, has been a lifeline for many retirees. However, given the government's previous discussions about potential spending reductions, some fear that the triple lock could be weakened in the future. This would mean smaller pension increases, ultimately reducing retirees' spending power at a time when costs are still rising. And let's not forget about the broader economic climate. The UK is still facing significant financial challenges, from high inflation to slow economic growth. If these issues persist, future governments, regardless of political affiliation, may find themselves reconsidering welfare spending once again. This is why it's crucial for pensioners and benefit recipients to stay informed and engaged with policy discussions. While today's U-turn is a win, it doesn't guarantee long-term security unless the public continues to demand fair and supportive policies. One thing this entire situation has highlighted is the power of public pressure. If there's one lesson to take away from this, it's that when enough people raise their voices, change can happen. The government didn't reverse its decision out of goodwill, it did so because it was forced to acknowledge the concerns of its citizens. This means that future attempts to alter benefit programs could also be challenged, but only if people remain vigilant and proactive. So, what should pensioners and benefit recipients do next? First and foremost, stay updated on any further government announcements regarding welfare programs. Even though the cuts have been halted for now, policy changes often happen with little warning, and being informed is the best way to avoid being caught off guard. It's also a good idea to support advocacy groups that work to protect pensioners' rights. These organizations play a crucial role in holding the government accountable and ensuring that fair policies are maintained. Additionally, if you or someone you know relies on benefits, consider reaching out to your local MP to express your concerns and demand transparency on future policy decisions. Politicians respond to their constituents, and making your voice heard can influence the direction of policy discussions. If the recent U-turn has shown anything, it's that public opinion matters. Another important step is financial planning. While benefits have been protected for now, it's always wise to prepare for potential changes. If possible, look into additional sources of income, savings options, or financial assistance programs that may help provide some stability in uncertain times. There are government resources, charity organizations, and financial advisors who can offer guidance on how to navigate economic uncertainty. Ultimately, while the government's reversal on benefit cuts is a victory, it's not the end of the story. Policies can change, new governments can introduce different approaches, and economic pressures can shift priorities. But one thing remains clear: pensioners, disabled individuals, and low-income households deserve financial security. These benefits aren't luxuries, they are essential lifelines that allow people to live with dignity. That's why staying informed, staying engaged, and continuing to demand fair policies is more important than ever. The government may have backed down this time, but that doesn't mean they won't try again in the future. By working together, speaking up, and pushing back against unfair policies, we can ensure that the rights and needs of pensioners and benefit recipients remain a top priority. So, what do you think about this government U-turn? Do you believe it's a genuine change of heart, or do you suspect more changes are coming under a different name? Let us know in the comments below, we want to hear your thoughts. And if you found this information useful, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with others who need to stay informed. Together, we can make sure that no one is left in the dark when it comes to the benefits they rely on.